I'm not satisfied. I'm back to this piece again. I can't just leave it be. I'm gonna see what I can do to rectify this. It may be everything, it may be nothing. I'm still rather sick, but I've been sitting around for 3 days or so, and it's getting to me that I'm not being productive with my time. So I'm back out here. I'm gonna have to just take my time because I'm out of breath just talking. I'm gonna see what I can do with this. I might drive a chisel down it or something, bend things away. I'll cut off where I can. Do everything in my power to get this middle piece separated from the rest. I'm going to try to salvage it. I think I'm going to lose some more of the material in the process. So I'm going to then clean up this piece. I've got this weird gouge. I can't remember what caused that way back when. Sort that out. I have another one of my cleaned up pieces. Then I have this small piece. This was all from when I was trialing Damascus to begin with in one of the first videos. So I've got this piece, this piece. As you can see, they came from the same billet, but they look slightly different. This piece is also from there. Don't remember where this came from, but I have that, and then I have this piece as well. What I'm going to try to do is probably go this one. How am I going to do this? This one, followed by this one, followed by this one, followed by this one, followed by this one. Oh, I don't think that's going to work. Anyway, my main train of thought is that I'm going to try and stick all these pieces back together, then try to stick whatever I end up with from that onto what I can salvage from this, get some material back. We'll see what my next move from that is. It's pretty hot today. It's a 33-degree day, so it's a bit stupid for me to be out here, I think. I just can't sit around anymore, so I'm going to just do what I can today. I think it makes sense to start with this and not fire up the forge on a 33-degree day, but we'll just see where I end up in a little while. Down here is where I'm worried that it's forge welded together. It's a bit gross coughing into a respirator. However, luckily for me, my forge weld was absolutely garbage. So, I reckon I've just salvaged this piece. So just here, it's going to have an inclusion from my stick weld. So I'll grind that out. I'll get rid of the scale, and then this piece is ready to go again. Wicked. Well, achieving that was way easier than I expected. Come on, camera, can you do it? So I've cleaned up all the edges. You can still see through the center here. That's where my two pieces forged together. Oh, and by the way, it sounded stupid when I was talking about how I burnt myself. These burns are now over 2 weeks old, and they're still fairly deep, have fresh scabs on them. Yeah, forge burns are not to be trifled with. Anyway, that was significantly easier than I expected it to be, which is a positive. Not so positive that I can see very clearly where the two pieces join together still, right down the center there. Don't know how well that's going to show up on the camera, but that took all of about 5 minutes. So now the question is, do I go ahead and try and forge these other pieces together? Pretty hot day, and I'm in full gear. What's the time? 2:28. I don't think I have a choice. I think I've got to do it. So I'll see you back when I have welded together each of those pieces that I showed before onto a handle. Once I figured out what orientation I want it, yeah. I did not use the two smallest pieces. I don't think they'll work, but I did use the real thin one, the one that looked really messed up, and then the one that was already cleaned off. So I ground that real bad, whatever it was, flat. Oh, smooth, not flat. It'll prevent any cold shuts. I should clarify, in one of my previous videos, I spoke about cold shuts. And in my head, as I was saying it, it made sense, but it kind of didn't. I was referring to a cold shut specific to the twisted Damascus, where steel can curl onto itself and trap itself. But a cold shut can really happen with any forging or forge welding or whatever. And it's where you have like one piece that sticks out, which because it's thinner, it cools off while the remainder of your piece is still like red hot, which means you can't fuse it together or whatever. So it's cold and you shut it, and it never becomes one homogeneous piece again. So I guess that's a better definition of a cold shut. And through that, because it cools off, it builds up a scale, which then sort of tucks itself in between the layers, I guess, whatever. I guess the next step now is to just whack this thing in the forge and get it up to welding temp. A little bit of borax. I'll try and forge weld it together. All right, let's see what we can do. not really sure what's going on, but it looks like one of the older pieces is delaminating. So originally I didn't forge that very well together. I don't know what that means. I just marked out the size of this original Damascus piece. I'll try to get that one roughly the same size as that to make it a bit easier to forge weld together. Heat. Jiminy cricket. I did what I could. It's not great. I got it bigger than this one. Oops. There's a couple of things that have me slightly concerned. Oh, this thing's hot. Just here was the split that I was talking about. I have to grind that out. This one here is more of an issue because it's right in the middle. There's one just here as well. Oh, there's one just here as well. Small one up here, not worried about that. This side, I think, looks alright. It's going to be a case of grinding down the edges, try and sort out what this is, sort out a way of fixing that. Hopefully I can use this piece, but now I have to wait for it to cool before I can do anything. So I'll be back with you when I've got it prepped for the next stage. One tiny little tack weld in the corner, forge weld this whole thing together. It'll be messy, but if I can join them together, hopefully I'll be able to clean them up a bit and work on it from there. I'm not sure. Hopefully they're together in one piece. This is what I've ended up with. Unfortunately, I did make the second one a little too large, so it's a bit wider. Got this rim, but that's alright because this end is real dodgy. So I've got my weld inclusion here, my stick weld that I have to deal with. Probably should have put that at the back. Oh well. Clean up all the edges. I'm going to try doing the same thing again, in that I'm going to try to sandwich this between a couple more layers, like so. But what I'll do this time is be a bit smarter about it. I think they refer to it as painting in the forge, where you sort of like back and forth through the flame, get an even heat. I'll let the single thin end stick out of the forge, so this can all heat up first, and then I'll heat up the rear end where I want them all to join together. Back to the angle grinder. Alrighty. Oh, there we have it. Cut off from the ends. Hopefully I don't have any of those really poor cracks and whatnot through it. I think it forged together, but then I've thought that about other things. Oh, goodness. Ow, it's hot. Now I've said I've forged things together before and they've just fallen apart. So I don't know what this is going to do, but I think I've recovered. So now So the question is, do I use a piece that fully covers this and only slightly overlaps here, so that will be the only joining section, or do I use thicker stuff which is not enough to cover the entire thing, say down here, but the advantage of it is that I get this much joining together. It's one or the other, can't have both, which is unfortunate. Just don't want that thick piece on the side. I have a real rough idea in my head what I want to do with this, and I don't want to have these big fat pieces on the side. I'm going to eventually need to grind through those. However, I do have one 1075 that's that long, the thinner stuff, but I only have one. But I do have a 15N20 that's the same thickness, same length, but it will mean that one side is a different color to the other, which I suppose isn't a problem. I suppose that's not a problem. Maybe I'll do that. Alright, I'm gonna just grind these off, get any scale and whatnot off of them. Sandwich this between these two, put this one in there, Oh, this is where it all goes wrong. Well, here we are once again. Handle 1075 here, 1075, 15 and 20, slab of Damascus, wedged in the middle, tack welded. I don't know. It's a bit more of a gap in here than I would have liked. Poo. Hot, sweaty work. It's good. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think it was a success. I may have actually saved it. Maybe. There is one major problem, and that is that right here is a hole, which is where the Damascus piece met this piece of 1075. They didn't join together properly. I'm hoping that that hole is just here and I got it to fuse towards the back. Hopefully I'll be able to work around it. Oh, that was hard. It definitely doesn't help that I'm sick as a dog. But I had to get out here. It was doing my head in staying inside. I apologise for the mouth breathing and all of that. I had to do it though, I had to get out. So it's now 5:04. Time did I start? 2:30 or something. I was hoping to get a little more done, but it always takes longer than you think. Oh, it feels good to get back out here. I feel like shit. But I always feel so good getting out here. But I think that's where I have to call it quits today. Have a drink, get some rest. I'll be back. It's the following day. Feeling slightly better today. Not 100%, but a little bit better. Looking at this piece, I'm really concerned about this. Really concerned. And I don't know how to find out how deep that goes. That could potentially mess up the whole thing. I mean, I can only get this drill bit in a pretty short distance, but that doesn't really mean much, because that could mean that the hole only comes in this far or so, or it could mean that the hole goes the whole way, but it's just full of scale. I don't know what to do about it. I think I'll just press on. It could do with being a smidge longer. I don't know. It's just going to go back in the forge. Maybe I'll get it up to welding temp and try and flood the hole with some borax and then focus. I was going to say focus solely on there, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just going to wing it.
I think I can just forget about trying to fix that.
Okay. Yeah, that hole's still in the middle there, but I've managed to draw it out fairly well, I think. Let that cool. If you remember this thing, how it stopped working very well, I thought I'd leave it for a little while and come back to it and see if it got any better. Turns out it got worse. It doesn't do a very good job of grinding. So I went ahead and got an upgrade. So now I have a much better sander. Has a flat spot. If I twist the whole thing 90 degrees, I can maybe have a slack belt. 750 watt, Lineschel, blah blah blah. This is my single most expensive tool. This was 550, 544 or something like that. But I think I'm gonna have much better luck with this thing. So I think the first thing I need to do now, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna grind off the scale and maybe try and sand it flat on both sides. Yeah, I'll do that. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. It is not perfectly flat, perfectly even. I was grinding on this for ages and I got sick of it. So I think really I should get this perfectly flat on both sides, nice and even, but I have a couple of issues. This here where the outer layer joined to the middle piece, it wasn't very well done. So it's left me with this pretty average spot, which is leading me to believe I'm going to have to go with a hidden tang. A hidden tang is where, or a tang is what they call the part from the blade backwards through the handle. You can have a full tang, which you will see the top and the back and the underside with the handle. A full tang, so you got your handle and here is the steel. This is all one piece right the way through. So that's what they call a full tang. But because I don't have a nice even thickness the whole way through, and I'm certainly not going to grind it all down to be as thin as the thinnest point on here to make it even, I'll probably do a hidden tang, which lets me hide a lot of little crimes. So what I'd end up doing is I'll cut out the knife blade shape, and then for the tang, come in low, and then I can go all the way back here, and then basically make a handle that acts like a sheath over the entire thing and comes up here and hides all of this. You hollow out a handle, whatever material you're making it from, and then you just slide that into the hole with some epoxy or whatever. So I guess now it's time. And also I'm still not sure about this hole, what's going to happen with that. I really am hopeful that it's just what you can see there, just this tiny little, which, if that's the case, I might be able to work the way that I cut the blade, just goes around it, and I won't have to worry about the issue at all. I don't know if I'm going to go with this blade, because I lose a lot of my Damascus through here. Maybe I'll make it a bit of a Gumby shape, just to... So I went on the internet and just looked up a generic knife shape, and then this one might just be the way to go. A bit long here, but I'm doing a hidden tang anyway, so that won't matter. So I might just cut this out and have a look, I guess. If I follow this shape, I still lose a lot of my Damascus, because this is where the Damascus ends. I'm going to have half a blade that's not and half a blade that is Damascus. What I should have done in the forge is work this down and taper this end, which would have made it longer, which would have moved the Damascus back a bit. Deciding this shape is proving difficult, because I don't want to lose all my Damascus. Something else that I have to be cautious of. I have a couple of stick welds up here that I'm not sure I've eliminated fully, which is a contamination. Bear with me. After much deliberation, much fussing and looking on the internet for different knife shapes and whatnot, I've decided that rather than utilizing all of this and having a nice, good, proper, long, usable, functional knife, I'm going to make something a little bit weird with the plan of just using it as a box opener or something. I don't know. I've gone with a design that's reminiscent of a Tanto blade, something like this. I don't know exactly. This angle might be a bit steep. I might actually come here. The Damascus ends where this issue is. Maybe I'll just, go around that. And this is, I forget what this little notch is called. I might put it on the screen. I probably won't. Hopefully I can just go around the issue. Might go less of a steep angle here. And that way, most of the blade from this point forward will be with the Damascus pattern, hopefully. And then this, so it's going to be a bit disproportioned. But if I do anything else, I'm going to have half a blade that's not Damascus with a small bit that is, which is wasting the whole thing. So I'm going to go with this. I'm probably going to mess it up. I don't know. I just went around the outline with my Sharpie. Now I'll just grind away all the stuff that's blue. Alright, making progress. I've sanded it down here. Still not very even. I don't know if I care. So I've got a Tanto shape. I forget what this is called. I think this is too long. Once I figure out how I might want to hold it, I'll cut it as necessary. So I suppose all that's left now is to start working on the bevels. So it'll be bevels, then heat treat. Australian law is knives and stuff, you're allowed to have single-edged knives. You can't have daggers, double-edged swords. So you can have a katana, but you can't have a knights in armor sort of double-sided sword. Figure that out. I'll probably give this a false edge on the front, so I'll bevel it, but it won't be sharpened. Down here, though, I'll bevel the top to the bottom. And the reason for having this here is so that when you come to sharpen it, you can get right to the edge of the cutting edge with the sharpening rather than coming across the bolster at the back and not being able to sharpen the very, very end of it. So that's my next task. Interesting thing happened. I was grinding away, not really paying much attention to what's going on. Started feeling a bit warm while standing in the sparks. And so I moved over and I kept getting warmer and warmer. And then it was like kind of hot. I set myself on fire. So that was interesting. I looked down and there's flames. But anyway, it's now 6:22 p.m. I have to call it quits soon. What I might do is just really quickly rough in my idea of how I'm going to bevel this thing, and I'll be back in a sec. That's what I'm going for. I don't know about this false edge, and I think I've gone a bit aggressive. I've taken off a fair bit of material, probably too quickly. I was using a 40 grit, I didn't realise. So on the next side, because I've only done one side at the moment, I'm going to use some higher grit, 80, 120, don't know, something, because you can see how scratched it is and whatnot. It has to wait till tomorrow. So I did it again. I couldn't resist. I did a dirty etch referring to the grit that I used of the sandpaper was not very fine, so it's very scratchy still. Then I dipped it in some acid. I think I might have had some success here, which is rather exciting. This is where my issue with the hole was. It looks like it's not an issue, thankfully. Up here where it's one solid light color, I think that's just the outside layer still being there. So once I've gone down a few grits and ground the bevel a bit more and blah, 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 hopefully this pattern emerges all the way to the top, which would be very, very cool. But that's it for today. It's 5 to 7. I got to get some sleep.